Hi, everyone. Welcome to this wealthmanagement.com Fast Chat. I'm Shan Rossick, and today I am so excited to be joined by Nelray Bacha Ali, Managing Partner with Wells Fargo Advisors Financial Network. Nelray brings a wealth of experience to the conversation with deep insight into what it takes to build and grow a successful practice in today's evolving wealth management landscape. So in this chat, we'll explore her journey, what independence has meant for her business, how Wells Fargo Advisors Financial Network supports advisors, and why teaming can be such a powerful driver of client success. We'll also touch on the advice she'd share with advisors who want to position their practices for the next stage of growth. So a little bonus content there. So be sure to listen through for the whole conversation. So Nelray, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited. Thank you.
So I certainly want to dive right into this conversation because we have a lot to cover, but let's start from the beginning. Can you tell us more about your practice and the journey to build what it is today?
Absolutely. So I've been in this industry with 25 plus years, and the majority of that was as a sole practitioner. It was myself and a CA for about 17 of those years. I added on what at that time was called a broker-funded CA to help bring my practice to the next level on there. When I added that particular CA, I told her either we generate enough revenue that I don't notice what we're paying, or I get one day off. Either one was good. Time was of the essence because I also had 4 sons, so I wanted to kind of balance work as well as the practice. And then about 2 years ago, or actually 3 years ago, there was an opportunity with Wells Fargo to go into the independent channel. So working on the employment channel for all those years, I then partnered with 2 additional advisors, brought on additional sales assistants, and we went to the world of independent October of 2023. So I went from being a financial advisor with 2 CAs, building a practice, to being the managing partner, the owner, as well as the branch manager, running everything, and everyone works for me, as well as being an advisor, which, as a financial advisor for so many years, I love what I do. I love taking care of clients. So I had a new skill set of leading employees, and uniquely found out actually I'm pretty good at that. I like that. There was additional training on the job while we were moving over. And learning to make sure you had the right people. And I was lucky enough that I had some really good people surrounding me, and our team has continued to flourish and grow. So we're quite thankful for that. So.
Well, certainly sounds like you've had an incredible trajectory so far. So congratulations. But I want to pick on that word of independence, because obviously it's much more than just a buzzword these days. And independence really is a goal for so many practices. So I'd love to hear firsthand what your experience has been as an independent, and what are the advantages of independence over an employee model, from your perspective.
So when the opportunity came, I actually took about 18 months to really understand it. And so once I realized that independent was where I needed to be, I then took each month in those 18 months to kind of learn every aspect. So it wasn't just, you have your business, and a lot of people think, oh, it's really easy. You're running your clients, but you go from being a financial advisor to being a business owner. So you have to understand employment, HR, 401ks, healthcare. There's a lot of different aspects, making sure you've got the right attorneys and CPAs in regards to filing taxes and making sure payroll is made. But also having empathy and understanding that same, I think, quality that we have to have for our clients, you also have to have with your employees, because you now are their manager. They're working for you, and they depend on you to make sure that their lives are being taken care of. So there's a lot of additional requirements that a lot of people don't tell you about, that when you're writing that paycheck, they want, paid time off, vacations, retire. They want to make sure that they have their benefits, but also they want to, for me, I want to make sure everyone's being heard. And so, being in this industry for 20 plus years, I've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly. So I wanted to make sure that as an employer, that I was giving not only I wanted culture to be the biggest thing in regards to independence. So for me, when the opportunity came about, I was excited because I thought, I can really affect the culture. I know what I would like to thrive, and I want this to be a place where advisors can come and not only grow, but want to be here. So, quality of life, I'm a big believer of wealth and health are tied together. And so as I see a lot of my support staff, they weren't getting a lot of opportunity to leave the office as much as the advisors were. So I wanted to make sure that we had better quality of life. So that was, instead of a CA 1 to 9 FAs, it's really 1 to 1 or maybe 1 to 2. And so that we have more support than what we quote unquote need versus less support, because I think that was the biggest opportunity I could give to my existing employees, particularly the ones that have been with me since the beginning. So I went on a listening tour. I wanted to find out what was important to them, to simply finding the right location for our office. I wanted green. I wanted lights. I wanted the sun to come through the office. And I have one office I call it the Zen room. And it's just there for, we all have a day. You get to go Zen out. It's got the yoga, whatever, but it's really meant for you to have kind of your own space for an hour or so that you're not always on there, where advisors, we get to leave the office and talk to clients and, take our time. I wanted to give that same luxury in regards to my support staff, because I believed happy staff make our life easier. So that was one of the things that I immediately started with, taking care of the staff first. I worked with them, making sure they were taken care of. And if they're taken care of, they take care of the advisors, and they do a phenomenal job on there through compliance and service and everything. So, so far they're doing well, and I've got staff that have better quality of life. They're exercising more, taking more vacations. And one that I've been with forever, I joke because she was so happy. I'm like, "What's wrong with you?" They were like, "This is what I look like being happy." I'm like, "Oh my gosh." Okay, it works. So, so those are things that gives me. I like to give back, and I like to see others doing well. So, that's been a great thing, and I've been working so hard that they actually came in my office one day about 6 months ago, and they're like, "Look, we got to make sure you're taken care of too." So, they were looking out for me. So I did appreciate that, and kind of wanted to make sure I went back to getting balance of life, because I was so busy trying to get the business going and making sure I was doing well. It was able to go, "Yeah, we're doing good. We're doing good." So I can start to enjoy myself again.
Oh gosh, are you hiring? I might have to make a career pivot, because after hearing all, you're speaking my language, between the culture and just being very intentional about it all, and looking
Yes.
out for each other. So that's incredible that you've had the vision of not only knowing what you wanted your culture to look like, but the fact that you all kind of keep each other in check. That's
Yes.
really special. And that starts from the top down. And, I think it's interesting because going independent doesn't mean doing it alone, right? And so everything you just described it's because of the team is what makes it work. So, I'm curious too, what kind of support did you ultimately lean on to go independent? How has Wells Fargo Advisors Financial Network supported your practice as an independent?
Honestly, Wells Fargo made it really easy. I've only been at 2 firms, so I got to transition my practice at Wells Fargo to independent at Wells Fargo. I mean, you can't get any easier than that. So it wasn't difficult for our clients, because we were just moving from this location to this location. So for the clients, it was very transparent, which was big for me. I did not want to upset the apple cart. I wanted to make sure that was seamless. So that was the first thing. The second thing was just simply things that I wasn't familiar with, location, healthcare. They gave us the support staff, the business assistants, to help us do that, because I jokingly would say to our business solution people, there's an app for that. They kind of walked hand in hand with us, and that helped me, because you don't know what you don't know, right? And so I'm really smart, but there's so many things you don't know. So I'm also humbled to realize I'm going into an area that I'm excited about, but I'm not the expert. And so having Wells Fargo as a partner to basically say, hey, here's the people that we've already kind of scrubbed that you can work with, gave me a lot more peace of mind. Because I felt that if they've done their due diligence, they're not trying to do anything to harm us, because obviously we're growing, and they want us to grow. So that allowed me to be engaged fully with the individuals that we were recommended to, versus having to, look behind their back and thinking, well, are they looking out for us? So I think that was the first thing, the huge support and encouragement to be where you need to be. In other words, maybe, for some employment channel, others is independent. Wells Fargo gave us the ability to massage and land where we felt we wanted to be. And you've got so many different channels. So you've got the independent, you got the RIA, you got the employment channel. There is so many different ways that you can grow your practice. And I started in I started almost in every channel and have grown and grown and grown. So I've been able to do that for the majority here with Wells Fargo, which has made my life a lot easier in regards to focusing on what's important. And then as I'm still growing and learning, they're still here. I don't necessarily have to reinvent the wheel. I can just raise my hand and say, hey, I'm looking for this or I'm looking for that. So the leadership on the finance side has been phenomenal as well. They listen, they care. And, I love the fact that when I call, they pick up a phone. I think that's great.
Concept, right?
Right, exactly. So, or if there's something that we think needs to be changed, they really do look at that. And if the possibility is there, they change it. So, I can go on, but because I've had most of my career here, it's kind of like my parents. They were amazing parents. I didn't know, I had this great family. I didn't know that other people. So it feels like family. I like the fact that I can actually pick up a phone and, speak to someone. I think the biggest thing, if I had a complaint going from the employment to the independent, is that because you're independent, you're doing it, and there's a little disconnect from some of the employment folks that you've grown up with. But one leadership said, well, it's like your children that have gone off and they're off the payroll. You're still with the family. And I was like, that's a good way. Yeah. On there. So, but it's been a great journey. I have learned so much in the last 2 years, on there, and just being able to execute my own vision and, being able to actually see it come to life. It has been an amazing thing, on there. So forever, I'm very grateful and, humbled to be able to do it, but also to bring my work family along with me so that everyone can get all tides grow together and we can have a great quality of life.
Absolutely. Well, it's clear that you're thriving under Wells Fargo, which is incredible to hear. But we know that's only a piece of the puzzle, because your practice actually uses teaming to deliver a better client experience. And those team dynamics can make such a difference. So, because not only in how advisors work together, but obviously the outcomes for clients. So talk to me a little bit about what that looks like in action and why you're such an advocate for teaming.
So there's a lot of different advantages to teaming. I think some that a lot of FAs don't think about. One that particular for me is, if you love what you do and you want to take care of your clients, having a team gives succession planning. That's a big deal. I think a lot of people think, oh, we're just going to come and grow practice. Yes, you are, but you also need to make sure that you're building the next generation. If you're, just as we are thoughtful in our planning, we have to be thoughtful and our exit as well. So I want to make sure I love what I do, and hopefully I'll do it for a long time. But God forbid if something happens, I've got someone in place that can take over, that clients are familiar with. And I'm also growing the next generation. I've brought on next gens, they're licensed and they're growing. And so they're learning the practice. And so I've got two folds. I've got people that right now, God forbid, if something happens, can take over. And I also have the next generation that I want to pour into and mentor that will grow into it. And so I'm trying to cover both those bases on there, but also clients, I jokingly say I don't think they realize how old I am, but the reality, so I haven't really been asked like, when are you leaving or anything like that, but letting them know we have other individuals here that are going to be able to take care of them. When we're going for, presentations, being able to have that entire breadth, because you have different people that, we all have we're all about planning and doing the right things, but sometimes other people bring in a different skill set that you may not have thought about. And I think that adds value. So when you have the vision, but you're willing to humble yourself and say, I'm not the smartest one in the room, I want to bring other people in there, I think it just makes for a better outcome for everyone.
It is so encouraging to hear coming from an advisor that you already have your succession plan in place and you're also helping raise up the next generation that's underneath you. So, Nelray, you certainly have it all figured out. It's incredibly impressive. One more question for you. And then this might be the $1 million question because I promise a little bonus content here. But what advice then would you give to advisors who are looking for opportunities to grow their practice? You've been wildly successful. What are some nuggets that folks could walk away with?
One, I'm a big advocate of the independent channel. I think our practice has the ability to bring advisors on and help them grow because I think staffing is important. So we bring on the staff first before we're going to bring on advisors so that we make sure that we have that available to them. But also training, mentorship, and having that ability, not only being an advisor, but a certified financial planner and really, e-money is a big, big deal. I will say that if you're not doing planning for your clients, you're missing the boat because what we do is a commodity with stocks and bonds. You can get that anywhere, but that particularly with AI and everything coming out, but that it factor is knowing your clients and being able to hold their hand and guide them through that next steps. Having that 20 plus years, I can definitely help to add that growth for individuals, particularly younger advisors that are wanting to grow and make sure they're focusing on the right thing. But I'd also say that within Wells Fargo, the entire breadth, you can run your practice in any way you want to, but also you have the support from whether it's estate planning, lending. There's so many other aspects. So it's not just stocks and bonds, but being holistic. That's what really is the I call it the it factor. It brings in that stickiness for the clients and it keeps them there, but also they're able to get everything they need with you being the quarterback. And so if you're an advisor and you're thinking, well, I don't want the banking part, you're missing the boat, not because the bank's trying to take you. They're not. They are your partner. You can bring them in as you need to. So I would say, one, make sure you're utilizing all of the abilities of Wells Fargo, because there's a lot of it. And we've got experts that you can bring on that are there to support you, not to take over or anything like that, but to support you. And that's been I would say my secret sauce when I'm taking care of clients, so that we've not only got their banking, but their lending. I've had clients that have had business changes that we've been able to bring people on to help with the sale of the business. And guess what? When they sell that business, those assets tend to stay. So it's a very holistic approach, and it's more than just the hot stock. Well, we don't do hot stock today, but it's more than stocks and bonds. It's really looking at the total picture for the clients. And for myself, as I said, I am very big about wealth and health together. So I like to have other people in I call it, I'm good about giving others to do things because I want to get my workout in the morning. I want to be able to get that run in and know that my clients are taken care of. So by the time I get in the office, half the problems are probably already taken care of, and I can sit in front of the client and do what I love, which is listening and gathering assets and taking care of them. So I don't know if that answers that. Hopefully that made sense.
No, it absolutely does. And honestly, that's the perfect note to end on, because who doesn't want to walk away with a few practical takeaways they can put into action right now? So Nelray, thank you so much for joining me for this conversation and sharing your perspective on independence and teaming and growth within the Wells Fargo Advisors Financial Network. And thank you to our audience for tuning into this wealthmanagement.com Fast Chat. We'll see you next time.